my name is Chris. I'm a bookbinder at Tortuga Journals. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make your own handmade book using materials from the Tortuga Journals bookbinding kits. Let's begin. Before you are all the materials you're going to need to make a handmade book. We have paper, end sheets, binder board, string, glue, rollers to roll the glue, needle, an awl, spacing materials, muslin, and fabric. So, let's go ahead and start making our book. The first steps of bookbinding are folding lots of sheets of paper. So, to do that, we can take a bone folder, or if you don't have a bone folder, you can use a classic tongue depressor and press down to get a perfectly even crease. Go ahead and do that with all of your sheets of paper. Once your pages are all folded, put them into a stack, crease them one more time just to get them nice and perfect. Then what you're going to do is put your paper into signatures. Each book is usually made up of 5 or 6 signatures, which consist of about 5 pages. So I take 5 pages and fold them inside of each other, just like this. This is one signature. Do this again with the rest of your sheets until you have 6 signatures. So once you have that ready, we're ready to move on to our next step, which is going to be cutting our pages. Once you have all of your signatures ready to go, you're going to take your end sheets, which have been pre-cut, to mark off the size of your final book. So what I do is I take one end sheet and mark where I'm going to be cutting. We'll get to the cutting in just a minute, but this will give you your basic marks so you know where to cut your book. Go ahead and repeat that on all of your signatures. For this next step, I typically use a cutting board to cut my signatures. It makes it easier for cutting lots of pages. And I've already pre-marked on my cutting board exactly where I need to cut. But I can also use the marks that I've created on my paper. Now, if you don't have a paper cutter, that's okay too. What you can do is take your ruler and a box cutter and cut each signature by hand. Be very careful, and you want to cut on top of a cutting surface, and use a ruler and this will get you a nice, perfect cut, and continue that for each signature in your book. Make sure you press the pages together before you cut. We're now ready for the next step, which is going to be punching holes in our signatures. What I typically do is make a template so I know that all of the holes are the same in every single signature. First, I measure out the holes. I usually do one at a 1/2 inch from the edge, another at 2 inches, and another at 3 inches. Then I turn around to the bottom and measure out the same distance. One at a 1/2 inch, one at 2, and one at 3 inches. There will be 6 holes altogether. Then what I do, just to make it clear, I usually make a cross line to know where I'm going to be punching my holes. When you're finished, your template should look something like that. It's okay if the holes are spaced out a little bit differently from mine. The most important thing is that they're symmetrical. So you want to make sure that the holes that are on this side of the sheet are the same as on this side of the sheet. Okay, once we have our templates ready, take your first signature and place your template directly in the center. You want to make sure that it lines up evenly on both of the edges. It's okay if it sticks out on the sides a little bit. What really matters is that it's centered in the center crease. Press down gently and take your awl. I usually use an awl like this, but if you don't have a traditional awl, you can use any pointy device. This just happens to be a dart that works really great as an awl. So go ahead and punch through the holes in your signature. Once you've done that, you can take the rest of their signatures and punch holes in those also. Okay, once we've punched all the holes in our book should look something like this. You can see the perforated marks on the edges. Tell me where I'm going to sew. The next step is to go ahead and cut some string. The way to measure out how much string you need is by measuring the length of your book with the string, and then you're going to multiply that by however many signatures you have. So I have 6 signatures, so I'm going to cut 6 times the length. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'm going to leave a little bit of extra on the side. So, go ahead and thread your needle. You want to use a large-eyed sewing needle, and what you're going to do is come in from the outside of the first signature and just go in through the first hole. Go ahead and bring your string around and go through each of the holes of the first signature. Just like this. And pull your thread all the way through until you have just a little bit hanging out, kind of like that. Now, when you're ready to put on your second signature, you're going to go ahead and take the needle from the outside to the inside, pull your string all the way through, just like we did before, then pull your string tight so the signatures are close together. Come out. Now, instead of going back inside this hole, what you're going to do is you're going to go underneath the stitch of the previous signature and come back around to the inside and pull your string all the way through. Just like that. Come back down to the next stitch. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to go underneath, pull it all the way through, come back in. And when you get to the end, what you're going to do is you're going to pull your strings tight, just like this, to make sure that our signatures are really nice and tight. And then you're just going to tie a knot on the end. Once you've done that, then you can go ahead and put on your next signature. Just take it from here, go on from the outside, come back around through the inside. Now, when you get to this part right here, where you're about to put on the third signature, you're going to tie, when you get to the very end of the third signature, you come out from inside out. Now, before we made a knot. Now this time we don't need to make a knot, but we're going to go underneath the knot that we made before, come back around just like this, and pull it tight. Okay, and then we're going to continue on with the rest of our book. So that's pretty much how each signature goes on. You're just going to repeat that all the way up until the very end, and I'll show you how you're going to tie your book off. That's it. Now, when we've gotten to our last signature, before we tie it off, what we're going to do is first go underneath the signature of the hole before it, and then what we're going to do is you're going to go back down to the bottom signature and pull it really tight and come all the way through. Okay? So that creates a really nice tight bind, and then what you're going to do is you're going to pull it around and just make a knot just like that. Okay, so basically what we're doing is we're just tying off our string, and then we're going to cut it just like that. We're now finished with the sewing part of our book. It should look like this, with the 2 cross stitches in the middle and this part on the ends. We're now ready to glue. Okay, so now that we have our book all sewn together, it's ready to be glued. So when I'm gluing, I'm preparing myself to let my book sit and dry for about a night. So you want to find a place, a table that you can leave your book on for at least 8 hours for it to dry. I'm going to lay my book on top of a cardboard surface. That way if I get any glue on the edges, it's okay. I'm not going to worry about getting glue on the table. So what I do first is I take my book and I want to make sure that all of the signatures line up perfectly. So I kind of tap it on the bottom, tap it on the sides, and then I lay it down overhanging the edge of the cardboard, just like this. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press my book using a weight. So I'm going to take one of my sheets of binder board, I'm going to press it on top, and then I'm going to take a weight to press it down. Be careful, make sure that none of the edges move. Now that I have my book ready and pressed, I'll lift it up so you can see what this looks like. It's going to look just like this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue all along the sides. So I'm going to use a good amount of glue, and I want to make sure that all of those little edges, all of those little gaps between the signatures get glued. You want to put a really good amount. This is what is actually going to hold your book together. Just so you can get a closer look, notice there's still a couple of gaps open, so I'm going to fill those in as well. Okay, so once that step is finished, you're ready to leave your book for the night, and it's going to dry for about 8 hours. And when you're done, you can take off the weight, and then we are going to create a casing for it using binder board and fabric. So that'll be the next step. That's it for this first part. Okay, so now that our book has dried, what we're going to do is we are going to attach our end sheets. So you can see our book now is nice and sturdy. It has a strong binding. You can open it up. But we're going to attach what's called an end sheet. This is actually what holds our book to our cover. So, to attach our end sheet, what you're going to do is you're going to get some cardboard or scrap paper, and you're going to get another scrap sheet of paper. You're going to lay it on top of your end sheet, just like this. Then you'll take some glue, and you're going to glue along this edge. And then I press it right along the edge. Okay, so then you repeat that and do that on both sides. Okay, so now that we have our end sheet on both sides of our book, just like this, what we're going to do is we're going to attach some muslin along the spine, and this is just to reinforce the spine of our book. So here you have your pre-cut muslin, and then I'm going to take my roller. This is the first time that we've practiced rolling glue onto fabric. So the technique here is to take some glue, and you want to make sure that it's evenly distributed along the roller, just like this. So I'm going to give it a couple of good rolls. Going to lift off the muslin from the cardboard because I don't want to get any glue on my book other than right where I want it to be. So then once you have your fabric, you're just going to press it in, just like this. Okay, press it along both sides. You can use your bone folder. So there is what your reinforced spine looks like. Okay, the last step to finish our book before we make a casing for it is to put on the headbands. The headbands are those little pieces of fabric that you see at the ends of books, and they go on the very edges. See, like where I'm putting the glue right here. This is what your headband looks like. And they're not just decorative, they actually keep the book from fraying at the edge. So you want to make sure that they're centered, and you want to leave just a little bit of fabric sticking out over the edge. And you're going to do that on both sides. We are now ready to make the cover. For our cover, we are going to use fabric and binder board. We're going to use our glue and roller as well as our scissors. So to begin, what I usually like to do is put the fabric underneath where I'm going to be gluing so I don't get any glue on it. Take one of my pre-cut sheets of binder board, and I'm going to put an even coat of glue all across the surface, and make sure you get all of the edges. Then move your cardboard aside and place your binder board over your fabric, making sure that you leave about a ½ inch of space on all sides. You can kind of nudge it a little bit and press it down. Then turn it around. You can take your bone folder, smooth out any bubbles or wrinkles that there might be. That's the first part. For the next step, you're going to take your pre-cut 1/4 inch spacer and you're going to put it alongside the front cover. Then go ahead and take your spine, glue it like so. Then you're going to gently press it down and make sure that your spine is 1/4 inch, which is the space of this measurement, between the cover and the spine. So it should look just like this. Turn it around, make sure that there are no bubbles, flatten it out, and then go ahead and continue with the other side. Now, the next step is to glue the edges to the cover. But before we do that, we need to trim off the corners. So we want to take off about a 90-degree angle from the corner of each edge. And you want to make sure that you leave just a little bit of space, about that much. You don't want the corner to be poking out over the fabric. Okay, so now we're ready to fold over the edges of our cover by taking a little bit of glue and rolling it along the first edge. Then you take your folder and you fold over that edge and make sure that you press in the corners. Press down, make sure there are no bubbles or wrinkles, and then go ahead and repeat and do the same thing on the other side. So our covers should look like this when they're all glued together. And if you have any pieces of thread that happen to stick out, that's okay. You can just go ahead and cut those off. So now we are ready to attach our cover to our book. We are now ready to begin to finish our book by attaching our book to the cover. So to do that, what we're going to do is align our book so that it is sitting evenly inside the jacket cover. Then you're going to take a scrap piece of paper, going to open up the end sheet, or the fly sheet, and we're going to stick that in. That way we don't get any glue on the inside of the book. Now you're going to take your glue roller and roll across the surface of the end sheet, making sure that you get a nice coating of glue all the way around. Okay, so now at this point, what you're going to do is you're going to press against the spine of the book with your 2 fingers, your thumb and your index finger. Press as hard as you can with these 2 fingers against the book. Press them against each other. Make sure that your book is lined up evenly. You want about 1/8 of an inch border on both sides of the book. And then when it's all lined up, go ahead and gently fold it over. Press it down. Then you can take your folder, fold inside the crease on the edge, open up your book, and you can go ahead and fold out any bubbles or wrinkles that there may be. And we're going to go ahead and do the same thing for the top side as well. Once we finish pressing along the inside cover on both sides, make sure you press along the edge of the spine to give it that nice crease, and then there you have it. We have our finished book. So we now have our own handmade book. Now it's not quite ready to use, it still has to dry. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our books on a table to dry overnight and press them underneath a weight. So what I usually do is I take cardboard and then I place the book hanging over the edge just a little bit. That way this crease along the spine will stay creased. And then I place a weight on top of the book. That way it will help it to dry. So that's it, and tomorrow morning you will have a handmade book ready to use. Thank you very much. I hope that you enjoyed this workshop from Tortuga Journals. If you'd like to know more about bookbinding, or if you'd like to take a workshop with Tortuga Journals in person, email me at tortugajournals@gmail.com. Or if you'd like to send a Tortuga Journal as a gift to a friend, you can find me on Etsy at www.etsy.com/shop/Tortuga Journals. Thank you very much.